Before I give you the 6 key principles, let me talk to your soul for a moment. There are some places in life that will cost you far more than money, places that are not about products or price tags, but about what they steal from your destiny, your purpose, your mind, your peace. I'm not just talking about malls or markets. I'm talking about emotional stores, mental stores, spiritual stores, places where people trade in potential for approval, dignity for validation, and vision for vanity. I came to tell you never ever shop here, because every time you show up in the wrong place with the right hunger, you leave full of the wrong thing. We are often driven by desire, but led by deception. And when you do not know who you are, you end up browsing aisles that were never meant for you. Let me be real with you. You're being sold every day. They're not selling you clothes, they're selling you comparison. Not cars, but competition. Not beauty, but bondage. And many of us are walking around with bags full of brokenness, receipts of regret, and labels that lie. And still, we keep shopping in places that robbed us before. What's worse is that some of us are loyal customers to our own pain. We keep going back to relationships that tear us, back to opinions that shrink us, back to circles that suffocate us. We shop for love where we once found loneliness. We shop for purpose where we once lost direction. But I came to declare a warning to your spirit: never ever shop here again. You don't belong in places where your value is discounted. You don't belong in conversations that put your calling on clearance. You don't belong in environments that don't carry the currency of your worth. There are some stores in life that you walk into just once, and it costs you 5 years. A decision, a compromise, a quick exchange, and suddenly you're in debt. Not financially, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. That's why this message is urgent, because some of you are shopping in places your purpose cannot afford. You better ask yourself, what am I buying? Who am I buying it from, and what is it costing me? Let me tell you something dangerous. Familiarity will trick you into thinking you're safe. Just because the place is popular doesn't mean it's profitable. Just because the crowd is there doesn't mean it carries your calling. You need the discipline to walk past some windows and say, "No, thank you. My future is not for sale." Let me give you the signs. When a place makes you feel smaller, never shop there. When a relationship demands that you shrink to stay, never shop there. When the cost is your identity, your sanity, your purpose, never shop there. When the checkout counter is guilt and shame, never shop there. When what they're selling requires you to forget who you are, you weren't made to bargain for your destiny. You weren't created to settle for knock-off versions of your calling. You weren't designed to dress yourself in doubt just to look like the crowd. Your value is too high to be handled by hands that don't honor you. You need to unsubscribe from some environments. You need to unfollow some distractions. You need to close accounts that drain your destiny. Never buy validation with your identity. Never buy belonging with your boundaries. Listen to me. There's a difference between a place that sells what you want and a place that supports who you are. Choose wisely. You can't afford another receipt of regret. Now here are the 6 key notes for this message. The first truth you must understand is this: value determines placement. You never see diamonds being sold at a roadside stall. You never find a Rolex thrown in a discount bin. And yet, too many people shop for their worth in places that treat them like plastic. The problem isn't your desire to be valued. It's the marketplace you've chosen to be seen in. When you don't know your value, you'll settle for environments that are too cheap to carry your kind of treasure. You'll keep returning to emotional shops that sell temporary affection but demand permanent identity loss. You'll keep standing in lines where the product isn't peace, it's performance. That's not a sale, it's a scam, and you're the one losing every time. People are trading in their destiny for temporary dopamine. They're scrolling for approval, liking for attention, buying trends just to feel accepted. But don't you know that the price of fitting in is the silence of your calling? If you must mute your truth to stay in someone's circle, you've already sold out. If you must downplay your gift to avoid making someone insecure, you've already given a discount on your divine design. You were not made to blend in, you were born to stand out. But that truth comes with a cost. You'll have to leave some stores behind. You'll have to walk past some people. You'll have to say no to some opportunities that smell like success but stink of compromise, because every yes to the wrong place is a no to your assignment. You cannot keep shopping at stores that don't stock your future. You cannot keep going back to broken places expecting wholeness. You cannot expect healing from hands that wounded you. But the sad thing is, we go back, not because we believe it will be different, but because we forgot who we are. When your identity is unstable, your standards are negotiable. And when your standards are negotiable, your destiny is at risk. This is not about pride, it's about principle. You can't keep trying on roles you were never designed to wear, trying to fit into molds you were born to break. Stop trying to impress people who can't even interpret the greatness in you. Just because they can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means you're shopping in the wrong store, and don't get comfortable in those places that applaud your broken version. Some stores celebrate you when you're wounded because healing would make you leave. They love you insecure, dependent, uncertain, because are confident you would outgrow their control. Don't confuse attention with acceptance. Don't confuse applause with alignment. There are people who will cheer you as long as you stay beneath your calling, because your elevation would expose their stagnation. And if you're not careful, you'll trade your purpose just to keep them comfortable. But you were not made to shrink. You were made to soar, and soaring demands that you stop shopping in valleys when you were built for mountains. You've got to audit your environment. Ask yourself, who benefits when I forget who I am? What do I keep buying emotionally that I don't even need? What soul subscriptions have I renewed out of fear, not purpose? Some of you are in contracts you never read, emotional agreements that drain you. You're paying in peace, paying in mental space, paying in spiritual stillness, and the product you're receiving isn't even joy. It's survival. Listen, surviving is not thriving. Just because you can endure something doesn't mean you were meant to keep it. It's time to cancel the purchase, return the false identity, walk out of the store of self, doubt and close the door. You don't belong there anymore, and while we're here, don't let your need for approval push you into spiritual bankruptcy. Some people spend so much energy proving they belong that they forget they were chosen before they were ever seen. If you have to buy your place at the table, it was never your table. You were born with purpose stitched into your soul. There is no label that defines you, no price tag that limits you. You are not for sale, and your destiny is not negotiable. So why are you still shopping like you're lost? You cannot lead when you're always looking for someone to tell you who you are. You cannot rise when you keep lowering yourself for discounts. This is the hour to reclaim your worth, to declare, I will never shop here again. Not because I'm angry, but because I've awakened, because I've seen the cost of compromise. Because I know who I am now, because I finally understand. Value doesn't chase. Val, you waits. Value doesn't beg to be chosen. Val, you knows it was sent. So wherever you've been spending your time, your thoughts, your energy, ask yourself, is this investing in my destiny or stealing from it? If the answer is theft, then you know what to say. Never, ever shop here. The second truth you must grasp with unshakable clarity is this. Just because it's available doesn't mean it's meant for you. One of the biggest traps in life is accessibility. The more you see something, the more it starts to look like it belongs to you. The more you're exposed to an environment, the more you begin to normalize its patterns. But don't let access fool you. Availability does not equal destiny. Just because it's within reach doesn't mean it fits your identity. Some things are close but not called. Some things are present but not purposed. Some people are near but not necessary. That's why discernment is more valuable than opportunity. The enemy of destiny is not always danger, it's distraction. Not every open door is divine. Not every crowd is your community. And not every offer deserves your yes. You have to learn how to walk away from what looks good but feels wrong, from what sounds right but drains your spirit. You can't keep shopping where you're just tolerated, hoping one day you'll be celebrated. You can't keep spending your energy in places that make your greatness feel like a burden. You were not created to apologize for being chosen. We live in a culture where everything is marketed as if it belongs to everyone. But the truth is, when you don't know your purpose, everything starts to look like an option. And when everything becomes an option, you lose the ability to say no. You start sampling things that look exciting but carry hidden toxins. You date for chemistry, not character. You accept jobs based on salary, not calling. You join circles based on vibe, not value. But purpose is not a feeling, it's a filter. It's what protects you from cheap offers and costly detours. You have to be so secure in who you are that you don't fall for what's merely around you. And here's the danger. When you don't define your standards, someone else will. And they'll always set them lower than your potential. That's why you've got to stop shopping where people are selling you less than who you are. Stop shopping where your power is reduced to silence, where your identity is reduced to image, where your presence is ignored until it becomes useful to them. Never forget this, just because they want you now doesn't mean they'll value you later. Sometimes you're only attractive because you haven't spoken yet, because once you reveal your vision, your fire, your boundaries, suddenly you're too much. But I came to tell you, be too much anyway. Be everything God made you to be, because the right space won't require a smaller version of you to fit. We've got to stop acting like we're on clearance, like our gifts are on sale, like our voice, our purpose, our dreams are something to be negotiated. No, you are not negotiable, you are not casual, you are not optional, you are a divine assignment. And if a place or a person doesn't treat you like that, you must decide, I will never shop here again. Because staying in the wrong environment too long will start making you think you're the problem, that you're asking for too much, that you expect too highly. But maybe your expectations aren't the issue, maybe it's the store. Maybe the place you're in was never meant to carry the weight of your calling. That's why protecting your spirit is not arrogance, it's wisdom. You have to guard your peace like it's the most expensive thing you own, because it is. Protect your clarity like treasure. Don't give discounts to people who mishandle your time. Stop sharing your secrets with ears that only listen out of curiosity, not care. Stop forcing conversation with people who already decided not to understand you. You don't owe them an explanation, you owe yourself peace. Understand this, purpose is location sensitive. A lion in the desert is vulnerable, a fish on land is helpless. Even a seed in the wrong soil will die. It's not about your talent, it's about your placement. You've got to ask, am I planted or am I potted? A potted plant looks like it's thriving, but it's limited. It can only grow as far as the container allows. Many of us are in emotional pots, spiritual pots, social pots. We look alive, but we've outgrown our space, and until you move to the right environment, your growth will always be capped. So don't just walk away, walk up. Walk higher. Elevation means separation. You cannot rise and cling at the same time. Some places must be left behind, not because they're bad, but because they're beneath your assignment now. If you stay, you shrink. If you remain, you rot. If you shop there again, you risk carrying back something that will delay your next season. Stop touching what God told you to release. Stop browsing where you've been blocked. Stop spending your mental and emotional currency on things that don't yield purpose. You have to become disciplined in your decisions. Discernment isn't just about what's wrong, it's about what's no longer right for you. Maturity is when you realize some things aren't sinful. They're just a waste of time. So when you stand at the window of that familiar place again, the place that looks good but feels wrong, the store of approval, the rack of validation, the shelf of fake comfort, you better remember the cost. Remember what it took to get here, and then speak with power. I don't shop here anymore. Let me give you a hard truth. Not everything that looks like a blessing is from God. Some things are traps dressed in convenience. Some people are distractions disguised as destiny. Some environments will celebrate your presence while secretly sabotaging your progress. And if you're not careful, you'll start buying into things that were never sent to build you, only to bind you. Never ever shop in a place that makes you trade long-term purpose for short-term pleasure. Never exchange your future for something that merely feels good now. That feeling will fade, but the consequences will remain. This is not about being cautious. It's about being called. When you carry something valuable, you don't walk through life casually. You walk intentionally. And that means being brutally selective about what you pick up, what you wear, and what you take home with you emotionally, mentally, spiritually. One of the most dangerous places to shop is a place that feeds your ego but starves your soul. The compliments feel good. The attention is magnetic. The feedback gives you a little high, but underneath it all you're dying slowly, because they're not feeding the real you. They're feeding your image. And if your image becomes more important than your identity, you've already started losing. Too many people are purchasing affirmation at the cost of authenticity. They post what people want to hear. They perform what culture wants to see. They walk into rooms pretending, hoping they'll finally be accepted. But hear me clearly, what you win with, you have to keep up with. If you win people by pretending, you'll be forced to live pretending. And eventually, you'll forget who you really are underneath all the masks. You better stop shopping in rooms that reward fake. You better stop shopping for influence in places that cost your innocence. Because what's the point of reaching the top if you lose your soul climbing there? Some of us are negotiating our truth one small compromise at a time. A little silence here, a little fake smile there. One decision that doesn't feel right but feels necessary, and before you know it, you're living in a story you never believed in. That's not favor, that's a prison. A golden cage is still a cage. Stop letting shiny things fool you. Stop letting crowds confuse you. Even a full store can be filled with empty people. When you operate in purpose, you will offend people who are comfortable with your broken version, and they'll try to guilt you into staying at their level. That's why some stores are familiar, not fruitful. They remind you of who you used to be. They welcome your weakness, but resist your growth. They were comfortable with your silence, not your voice. But if you keep shopping where you've already outgrown the inventory, you'll start shrinking to fit again. That's why this is not just a message. It's a warning. You can't afford another season spent in a place that no longer speaks to your future. And some of us need to get honest. We're addicted to what we should have left. The reason you keep going back is not because it's good. It's because it's known, predictable, easy, and we confuse peace with comfort. But peace is not comfort. Peace is alignment. You can be uncomfortable and in peace when you're in the right place. And you can be surrounded by everything familiar and still feel a storm inside when you know deep down this isn't where you're supposed to be anymore. If it drains you more than it develops you, it's not your place. If it distracts you more than it directs you, it's not your store. If it entertains you but never elevates you, then you know it's time to stop shopping there. You need to realize something critical. Purpose comes with instructions, and those instructions include where not to go. Just like a doctor prescribes medicine, they also tell you what not to eat, what not to mix, what to avoid. Why? Because healing is not just about what you take in. It's about what you stay away from. Growth is the same way. You don't just grow by adding things. You grow by removing things that are no longer in alignment. That means cutting off access to places that no longer deserve your attention. That means walking away from conversations that pull you back into insecurity. That means refusing to entertain patterns that kept you stuck before. This isn't pride. This is protection. You've worked too hard, prayed too long, sacrificed too much to go back into the same shop that once sold you lies. You believed those lies once, that you weren't enough, that you had to perform to be loved, that your voice didn't matter, that your calling was optional. And every time you returned, it cost you a little more of your fire, a little more of your clarity, a little more of your identity, but now your eyes are open, and when your eyes are open, your standards change. You start looking at that same store, and it no longer has what you need. The price is too high, the items are too fake, the energy is too low, and you know it deep down. This isn't my place anymore. So the next time you feel the urge to walk back, remind yourself who you've become. Remind yourself of the cost, remind yourself of the call, and with boldness, strength, and clarity declare again, "Not here, not ever, I don't shop here any more." Sometimes the most expensive purchases aren't made with money, they're made with time, with attention, with energy, with your peace, and yet people are out here shopping in places that drain their spirit every single day, all because they think being busy equals being purposeful. They've confused activity with destiny. They're buying into the lie that if something is loud, it must be important. But everything loud isn't powerful, and everything urgent isn't valuable. One of the most dangerous stores you can shop at is the store of distraction. The place that sells noise to people who never learned how to sit with silence. The place that offers you everything except the one thing you need most. Clarity. When you don't know how to be still, you'll keep shopping for stimulation. Something to keep your mind moving, something to fill the gaps in your soul, something to keep you from asking the hard questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What have I been called to do that I keep avoiding? That's why some people fill their lives with chaos. They're afraid of clarity, because once you become clear, you become accountable. Once you know better, you can't pretend you don't. And the moment your life starts to align with purpose, you lose the excuse to keep wasting your energy on things that have nothing to do with your assignment. You better stop shopping in environments that don't honor your stillness. You better stop hanging around people who only value you when you're exhausted, because tired people are easier to manipulate. When you're constantly distracted, you're easier to influence. That's why so many of us are being emotionally robbed in plain sight, because we're too busy to notice. We keep buying into every little crisis, every drama, every urgency, every fake opportunity, and in the process, we're missing what truly matters. You're not overwhelmed because your calling is heavy. You're overwhelmed because you've been carrying things that were never assigned to you. Not every burden is your responsibility, and not every emergency requires your presence. Some people are addicted to being needed because it gives them temporary identity. But let me tell you, being needed is not the same as being purposed. Just because someone needs you doesn't mean they're good for you. Just because a door is open doesn't mean you should walk through it. Some doors are traps with welcome mats. They greet you with flattery but lead you to burnout. They promise you fulfillment but deliver frustration. And if you keep walking through those kinds of doors, you'll end up full of activity but completely empty inside. It's time to reevaluate what you're spending yourself on. You only have one life, one soul, one purpose. You can't afford to keep giving discounts to people who don't even understand the value of what you carry. You're not a clearance item. You're not some leftover on an emotional shelf. You were created with intentionality, formed with divine strategy, designed with power, and when you finally grasp that, you won't let anything cheap define you again. Not a relationship, not a job, not a friend group, not a title, not a platform. You'll learn to say no with confidence. You'll learn to walk away without regret. You'll learn to guard your time like treasure. Because you'll understand, my time is holy, my peace is sacred, my energy is not for sale. You've got to realize that not all investments pay back. Some cost you more than you ever imagined. Some leave you spiritually bankrupt. But if you don't slow down long enough to check the price tag, you'll keep swiping your soul like it's unlimited. And the worst part, you don't realize you're broke until purpose comes to collect, until the opportunity shows up and you're too tired to rise, until the door opens and you're too entangled to walk through it, until clarity calls your name but your life is too loud to hear it. You don't need more options, you need more discipline. You don't need more noise, you need more stillness. You don't need more people, you need more discernment. Who you allow into your space will shape the quality of your thoughts. What you allow into your spirit will determine how far you go. You're not stuck, you're surrounded. And sometimes the only way to rise is to relocate. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally. That means no more wasting time in spaces that don't speak to your future. No more rehearsing conversations that don't lead to healing. No more participating in cycles that keep you emotionally bankrupt. It's time to get clear, time to get focused, time to get dangerous about your destiny, because destiny isn't just about arrival, it's about alignment. You can have the right gift in the wrong hands, the right message in the wrong mouth, the right identity in the wrong environment, and all of it can delay you if you don't stop shopping in places that can't handle your design. This is the season to be done with distractions, done with noise, done with things that feel urgent but mean nothing. You've got to see yourself as someone worth protecting, not just surviving, but thriving. Not just managing, but mastering, not just showing up, but showing up whole. And to do that, you've got to cancel every subscription that drains you. You've got to cut off every pattern that pulls you backward. You've got to stop buying what you never needed in the first place, not because you're better than anyone, but because you've finally realized who you are, and that's the moment everything starts to change. Let's make something very clear. Familiarity is one of the deadliest currencies you can spend your life on. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's faithful. Just because you've always gone there doesn't mean you're supposed to stay there. And just because it feels safe doesn't mean it's sacred. Some of us are still shopping in stores that robbed us years ago, simply because we've convinced ourselves that change is more painful than loss. But what you don't confront, you accommodate, and what you accommodate will eventually control you. If you're not willing to challenge your patterns, you will never change your future, and one of the most dangerous patterns of all is loyalty to broken spaces. You don't owe any place your destiny, you don't owe any room your silence, you don't owe any atmosphere your compromise. When God begins to reveal who you really are, the price of staying in certain places becomes too high. It costs you your clarity, it costs you your confidence, it costs you your creativity, and worst of all, it costs you time. Precious time you'll never get back. You have to ask yourself, how many years have I wasted trying to prove I belong in a place that was never built for who I'm becoming? It's one thing to forgive your past. It's another to still live in it. And too many people are living their future backwards, dragging every failed relationship, every toxic friendship, every expired opinion, every insecure voice with them into this next season. You can't carry old weight into a new war. You can't wear yesterday's mindset into tomorrow's territory. Some things are not just over. They were never right to begin with. That job didn't reject you. It released you. That door didn't close because you failed. It closed because it couldn't handle your future. That relationship didn't fall apart. It revealed itself. But as long as you keep mourning what you should have been running from, you'll stay stuck in the store of your own sabotage. The problem is, many of us don't want freedom. We want comfort, and comfort feels like safety even if it's slowly killing us. We stay where we're misunderstood because it's predictable. We shrink where we're unappreciated because it's routine. We serve where we're mistreated because it feels like purpose. But let me break the illusion. Purpose will never require you to betray yourself. Purpose may require sacrifice, yes. Discipline, absolutely. But never self-betrayal. If the cost of staying is losing yourself, it's not a store, it's a trap. And you have to make a holy decision. I will not keep buying what's breaking me. You've got to get aggressive about your emotional inventory. Take stock of what you keep spending your peace on, who you keep handing your focus to, what you keep justifying because it's familiar. Familiarity is not a sign of alignment. Some of the most toxic decisions you'll ever make will feel familiar. Why? Because trauma builds habits, and if your habits were shaped in pain, you'll keep repeating the same cycles until you call them what they are. That's why transformation starts with truth. Until you see it clearly, you'll excuse it emotionally. You can't heal what you keep normalizing. You can't grow in an environment you're afraid to question. Some of us need to stop spiritualizing our stagnation. Well, maybe this is just my season to be tested. No, it's not a test, it's a trap. And the reason it feels so confusing is because you've stayed too long in a place that no longer reflects your identity. You keep trying to adjust your spirit to an environment that was never designed for your evolution. You're not called to fit, you're called to shift. You're not called to blend in, you're called to break cycles. There's a sacred boldness that has to rise in you where you look around and say, this is not who I am anymore, and not with pride. Not with ego, but with clarity, with revelation, with the understanding that every level of growth comes with a new level of separation. And separation doesn't mean rejection, it means recognition. You finally recognize what's real and what's not. You recognize what's helping you rise and what's holding you hostage. You recognize what's elevating your voice and what's muting your power. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can only choose whether to honor that awareness or betray it again. Stop romanticizing places that almost loved you. Stop holding on to people who almost supported you. Stop clinging to jobs that almost fulfilled you. Almost is not good enough for your calling. You weren't made for almost. You were made for overflow. But you'll never experience that if you keep returning to the same emotional checkout line, scanning the same toxic behaviors, swiping the same excuses, and wondering why your cart is still empty. You better wake up and tell yourself, I can't afford to shop here anymore. Because there's a version of you waiting on the other side of your obedience. A version of you who's not afraid to walk alone if it means walking in alignment. A version of you who speaks up, walks out, and levels up without apologizing. A version of you who has no time left to spend explaining to people why you won't settle anymore. That version of you is waiting, and the only thing standing in the way is the store you refuse to leave. So ask yourself one final question. What am I still trying to buy from a place that already told me they don't sell what I need? Let me tell you something that most people won't say out loud. Some stores don't deserve a second visit. Not because you're angry, not because you're bitter, but because once you see the truth, you can't pretend you didn't. Once you've been burned by a place that looked safe but left you scarred, you gain wisdom that comfort can't offer. There comes a time in your life where you don't just stop shopping out of exhaustion. You stop shopping out of revelation. You realize the price is too high and the return isn't worth it. You realize that what they're offering is fake, broken, shallow, and you were made for more than counterfeit blessings. You can't keep returning to spaces that only love the broken version of you. You can't keep giving your time, your talent, your tenderness to people and places that never had the capacity to carry your calling. Some of us are stuck, not because we're not gifted, not because we're not anointed, not because we're not ready, but because we're shopping for validation from people who were never qualified to give it. You're trying to buy worth from a place that's bankrupt in identity. You're looking for value in people who never even saw their own. And until you stop, you'll keep paying for it with your confidence, your energy, and your destiny. Some environments only celebrate you when you're silent. The moment you start speaking truth, they get uncomfortable. The moment you step into your authority, they call it arrogance. The moment you draw a boundary, they call you rebellious. But that's only because your growth exposes their control. And if they can't control you, they'll try to confuse you. They'll give you just enough attention to keep you hoping. Just enough praise to keep you performing. Just enough access to keep you busy but never bold. It's manipulation in disguise. And if you keep returning, hoping something will finally change, you'll start shrinking just to fit into a system that was never built to empower you, only to use you. Stop shopping in systems that benefit from your insecurity. There are places that only function because you don't know who you are yet. The moment you find out your royalty, you stop begging for scraps. The moment you understand your calling, you stop volunteering for things that dilute it. When you wake up to your authority, you stop apologizing for taking up space. That's why your identity is dangerous. It threatens every environment that's been feeding off your silence. But here's the trap. Some stores are so well decorated, you won't even realize they're draining you. They have all the right branding, all the right language. They smile while they control. They clap while you perform. They shout your name, but they shrink your impact. They'll give you position, but never permission. They'll let you stand, but not speak. And the moment you step out of line, they remind you who owns the room. That's not alignment, that's spiritual slavery, And if you're not willing to walk out now, you'll spend the rest of your life buying their approval with your silence. You've got to get bold enough to walk away without closure. Because some places will never admit they mishandled you. Some people will never apologize for misunderstanding your vision. Some systems will never repent for using you. And if you wait for permission to leave, you'll wait forever. Freedom doesn't come from their blessing. It comes from your decision. And the moment you decide you're done performing for people who never even saw the real you, that's the moment your authority rises. That's the moment heaven responds. That's the moment you get your clarity back, because here's what they don't tell you. Your eggs, it is just as holy as your entrance. You walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. You walking out is not rebellion, it's obedience. You don't have to stay where God has already left. You don't have to serve in places He never sent you. You don't have to prove yourself to people who never had the capacity to receive you. When God calls you out, He's not just protecting you from them. He's protecting you from the version of yourself you had to become just to survive in that space. It's not just about leaving the store. It's about leaving the mindset that kept shopping there, that mindset that believed you had to earn love, that believed being busy meant being valuable, that believed silence was noble, that believed pain was the price of belonging. You've got to leave all of it behind, because if you walk out of the store but still carry their labels, you're still not free. This is the season to shed everything that's not aligned with your purpose. Every thought, every behavior, every narrative they placed on you, it's time to unlearn the lies and reclaim the truth. You are not needy, you're discerning, you are not too much, you're misunderstood. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not rebellious for refusing to settle. You are not prideful for walking away. You are powerful, and your power threatens any place that tried to make you forget it. So if you find yourself at the checkout counter one more time, pause, take a deep breath, look around and remember this truth. You don't belong here anymore, not because you're better, but because you're ready. You're ready to break free from cycles, ready to walk into rooms that feed your purpose, not your performance, ready to stop surviving and start thriving, ready to stop shopping in places that never knew what to do with someone like you. So now the choice is yours. After everything you've seen, everything you've felt, everything you've lived through, you can either walk back into the same store with the same patterns, the same voices, the same cycles. Or you can finally say, never again. Never again will I trade my peace for pressure. Never again will I spend my time proving my worth to people who were never qualified to define it. Never again will I shop in places that cheapen what God put inside me. Because I'm not for sale. My calling is not for discount. My future doesn't run on clearance racks. I know who I am now, and when you know who you are, you stop chasing rooms that never had the grace to carry your name. This is the moment where you walk out, not with bitterness, but with boldness, not with fear, but with fire, and every step you take away from what drained you brings you closer to what defines you. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to beg. You were born to build, born to break cycles, born to carry glory, born to walk in power. So don't just leave quietly. Leave intentionally, leave with clarity, leave with vision. Leave with the understanding that this exit is the beginning of your becoming. And when someone asks, why did you stop going there? You'll look them in the eye and say,